Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1.
Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Congratulations. On behalf of the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network for movie talk, and the schmoes know, you are now a member of the Jedi Alliance. May the Force be with you, always.
Hello there, and welcome to Jedi Alliance, a celebration of the greatest saga ever told. And it seems like every second there is more saga to celebrate. Today we will be talking about Jedi, about the best way to train Jedi. Was it done correctly in the prequels, the originals? Will it be done what we think is the correct way in the sequels? We will discuss that, news, fan questions, and everything. I am your host. My name is Joseph Scrimshaw. Your other host is, of course...
My name is Mark Donica. You can find me on Twitter at Mark Donica. I had to fix the spiel because I changed my Twitter handle recently, and it keeps just messing with me.
I was waiting to see how you would handle it.
The internet's Mark Donica. The B stands for Bothan. And joining us, one of our favorite guests, Miss Audrey Kearns.
Hi, thanks for having me back again, guys.
I'm just happy you're feeling better, because last time you were just super
I know,
sick.
I've got my inhaler, but I won't need to use it. This is just, just worst case scenario. But I am sucking on cough drops still.
Okay, so last time my dream pretty much came true that you got to use your asthma inhaler on air, like all
during a ZZ Top
true
story.
Deep geeks should do at some point.
Yes.
But you probably won't there, so it's just on the table to tease me.
Yes.
Excellent. Can you go through your spiel of where people can find you?
Absolutely. I run GeekGirlAuthority.com, a pop culture and geek culture website. Please check it out. And I also produce and host Kneel Before Odd, a podcast. We have a new episode coming out tomorrow with Bob DeRosa, screenwriter, and 5 Truths and a Lie storytelling show, and Polecats.
Nice. I mostly just wanted to see if I made you say a litany of things quickly, if that would trigger the asthma inhaler.
No, you have to.
Because I am a jerk.
I think right now, if you gave me like something super cold, like if you had thought ahead and give me like an ice cold drink, because that can trigger your asthma, and then make me laugh really hard, the combination of those two.
Right.
So remember that.
Cold laughter. Got it.
Cold
I will
laughter.
do that next time.
I love cold laughter.
That will be the title of the next episode that you're a guest on. Jedi Alliance.
Cold laughter.
It'll be about Hoth.
It'll be about Hoth.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been asking people about The Force Awakens. You've talked to us about your Force Awakens experience. I feel like we're in this weird window where we're all still super excited about The Force Awakens, but the initial heat and explosion of it is beginning to fade a little bit, even though we're all still thrilled and excited, of course. So I wanted to ask you about something relevant to right now, which is last night was, of course, the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I would personally like to see more sports in Star Wars, but the big one that's on screen, there's Grav Ball, which appears in various places, but the big one on screen is really pod racing. So
which is awesome.
If pod racing was a big event in real life, would you, Audrey Kearns, go to the big pod racing game?
I would be very careful of the seats I selected, though, because there's some of those seats where like the racers
the engine just totally
could totally kill you. So I would get in the no kill zone.
Okay,
seats.
I bet you'd have to pay more for the no kill zone.
Yeah, I would save up my money.
Awesome. And what do you think should be the halftime show at a huge pod racing?
Well, I think
event?
Daft Punk. I think they'd be perfect.
Yeah.
I think they'd be perfect.
I was gonna say Chris Martin and the Jizz Whalers, but that's a pretty good one. So essentially Coldplay.
Very upsetting sentence. I applaud you for it.
I'd say Bowie too, but I think a Daft Punk has a little, I don't know, leg up on Bowie on that one.
I'd say
Plus they're alive.
Depending on where the event takes place. I figure would probably help too.
Yeah, true.
They're more of a Coruscant event sort of a place.
You think, well, I imagine like if David Bowie did it, he would just levitate and like go around to different spots where people are sitting, and all of a sudden you get your private show and you get your private show. He'd be all over. He'd be like performing above part of the races.
Yeah. See, I think it should be Daft Punk, but then B. Arthur from the Holiday Special should also guest and do a little bit of a saloon song in the middle there.
That'd be fantastic. That would be fantastic.
That'd be fun.
Well, thanks for coming back, Audrey. We always love
having you.
Thanks for
having
me. From that, let's go to news from the Holonet. Starting off this week, we got a new book release from Miss Claudia Gray, of one of our favorites here, a Bloodline novel about Miss Princess. What?
Miss Princess General Leia?
Who we now General Lego Leia, who we now know as Commander Leia. What?
General Leia.
General Leia. I'm all over the place.
General Lego Leia?
General Lego Leia. Legolas Lego Legolas.
This is
our
going all over
fiction
the place.
episode.
Going all over the place. But we learned a lot of stuff about her position with the Republic after Return of the Jedi, and it's. I can't wait to read it in full, but from some of the excerpts that we've seen, very happy that Claudia Gray is staying in the Star Wars universe with her novels. What other characters, aside from Lego Leia, would you want to see Claudia Gray give the bloodline treatment?
First of all, I am excited, like you said, because I've read a couple of the excerpts, and I love stuff about politics, and especially in something in as grand a universe as Star Wars is. I can't wait to read that and get into some of that Senate intrigue and everything. But when we did the show on Before the Awakening, that book, I mean, my interest was really piqued on Poe Dameron's story. So I would like to find out a little bit more, maybe after his mom dies, about his life with his dad and how he got into, we know how he got into flying, but how he got into it professionally and working for, before he started working for the resistance.
His military life.
His military life, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled about this book for a lot of reasons, because it's the political thriller and kind of is going to fill out some of the information that we all kind of want from the Force Awakens era, in the fact that it is focused on Leia, but also just because it's written by Claudia Gray, who wrote Lost Stars, and she is such a great writer of prose. This excerpt it's great that they released the excerpt because it dispels any sort of concerns about it's just going to be Leia doing politics, and they're already in such a short excerpt. There is you get Leia's inner voice, you get her tensions, you get the stakes, and you get action, and it all moves nice and fast and crisp just because of the actual prose.
Right.
So it's, to me, for somebody who likes the prequels and likes the politics of fast-moving, intriguing, tension-based Star Wars politics, yes.
I'm in.
And especially because the politics were what people felt, oddly enough, was missing from The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
So it's great to see it expanded upon in book form.
Yeah, and then I was really interested in the press release too, that it seemed to clarify that it is going to tackle some of the big events that you might expect to be happening around this time, set 6 years before The Force Awakens, but that it was really careful to say, this is Leia's story. So it's not like we're just going to find out what happened to, Kylo Ren or Han Solo with Leia as a proxy. I'm really fascinated to see how they do that, of let us find out information about what's going on in the galaxy at this time.
Yeah.
But Leia is the main character. It's about her. She's not just there to tell other people's stories.
And at that time, everybody else is gone, seemingly.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense.
And we don't know the timeline, because that's one of the exciting things, because we might think this is a political thriller, when Leia has already been abandoned by both Han and her son. Or maybe not. Maybe Han is still there 6 years ago. We don't know the timeline yet.
Yeah.
Well, the author also said, Star Wars, in the grand scheme of events, is about family. She made that point, that it is about family and everything, but that will be in the novel, as well as all this political machinations that it's going to be focused on, but that's always going to be hanging. You can't have Leia without that hanging around her, so that will be affecting all her decisions. So, I'm assuming that that may be her inner voice thinking about, I don't know.
Yeah, I get so excited about the politics that every time I think about this and look at this, then I go, oh yeah, the cover. It's called Bloodline, and there's a huge picture of Vader's head. So yeah, I think it probably will have some of those themes of family.
Yeah, and especially how Vader was considered in the Senate throughout. I mean, even though the Senate was dissipated, but now, here's what your family is known for in the political world. That guy. So how can you do better than him?
Yeah, and exactly how well known is it? Because in
Yeah.
a lot of the new canon stuff, Tarkin, he's sort of figuring out who Vader is, but a lot of people don't really know who Vader is. So it'll be interesting to see if is that just utterly common knowledge that Leia is Vader's daughter or not?
Not. Is she going to be walking around like Harry Potter, where everybody's just like, oh, you're Harry Potter. You're the guy with the parents who got killed. And you can't do anything without anybody knowing who he is. And
you have that lightning scar on your shoulder from when that stormtrooper shot you on the moon of Endor. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you guys think we're going to see any cameos from Lost Stars?
No, I think that Claudia Gray has said pretty explicitly that Lost Stars is its own thing.
Good.
So yeah, I mean, that would be cool. But to answer your initial question about what other characters, if this is really, really successful and it is political, I would love to see how far could Claudia Gray's talents be pushed, and can she do a whole General Madine novel?
Wow.
I would go back even further from that, and Rex. from Clone Wars.
Oh, hey, yeah, that's a great
in between the
suggestion.
series and where he pops up in Rebels.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would like that a lot. Going from here, and something that I know how to say, it was revealed what Yoda's presence in The Force Awakens was going to be. It was a cameo where he was he was going to be in the what are they calling it? The Force back is a term that I saw used.
Okay.
In Rey's vision, we would have seen a little bit more of Yoda counseling Luke. And Frank Oz even recorded all of the dialogue already. Do you think that would have added or hindered from the experience of not only that flashback but from the movie as a whole?
Well, if he was going to be used in the Force back or the Vision, it would had to been very short and truncated, whatever it was, you know. So I don't know how much it could have added other than giving the audience or the viewer going, "Oh my God, that's Yoda," and then where'd Yoda go? I don't know if it would have been a good idea to keep him in if that's all he was going to be.
It sounds like it was taken out in because this is from the editors of the film who said
Yes,
this, right? So it sounds like it was an editing choice, and I think it was probably the right one because I think it would have disturbed the sort of Luke mystery and the weight of seeing Luke if you got a clear sense that Luke is communicating with Yoda.
Yeah.
That would have been just kind of a big answer to a mystery question of where exactly are the Force ghosts? Do they still exist? Do they still commune with Luke? Is he taking advice from them?
Right.
I would have loved to hear Yoda more crisply and clearly in the Vision and maybe some new lines. Because I think the way they used Obi-Wan was perfect.
Yeah.
Because it let us know that he probably still exists within the Force and he clearly seems to want to have some sort of interaction with Rey.
Right.
But it's not like just a full like, oh yeah, Luke, anytime Yoda's his phone-a-friend. If he's in trouble, he can communicate with Yoda. That's I would like to get that explicit information eventually, but maybe not in this way.
Right.
Agreed.
I agree.
Do you think we're going to see more Yoda moving forward? Do you think we're going to see the classic trio of Force Ghosts from the end of Jedi, like as the three Force Stooges?
I think it is a beautiful problem because I like canonically the idea that once you're a Force Ghost, you remain a Force Ghost. Like that was a thing in Timothy Zahn's novels that Obi-Wan was dissipating. Yeah. And I kind of like the idea of like, if you've managed to retain your presence, you just can. But then it does start to chip away at Luke being the last Jedi if he has all of these old friends to sort of counsel him. So I think it's a really fun problem to have.
Yeah.
Right. And then, you know, with the way things turned out for Luke with Ben and everything, he may have stopped communicating with the Force Ghosts, and that may actually make them dissipate, you know? Yeah,
I think we're going to get a lot of...
that's just a theory.
No, that's interesting, because then it becomes a character problem for Luke, where if he feels like maybe all of that consultation is what caused Ben to turn, he needs to abandon them, but then he abandons everything that got him to where he was in order to achieve a new height. Yeah, that's a fun character problem to have.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun there.
Yeah, I mean, I would like it if the Force Ghosts can communicate, but only every once in a while, so they can give that nice cryptic, specific. Cryptic and specific are weird, but they come once and they say something weird, and then Luke has to figure it out.
And they sit down because they're tired for some reason. Yeah,
that's only for big important talks. Of like, yes, I did lie to you about your entire life. I'm gonna take a seat on this log.
I need to sit for this one.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see moving forward, especially. What we know from, and even that I don't want to spoil it still, what we know from the Rebels trailer moving forward of what we're going to see of the existing world, and maybe some of these people, who knows, whatever. But for the films, I just more Frank Oz is always a gift.
Absolutely.
So going from there. Funny that you mentioned Legos earlier, Joseph, because
Legoland.
One of our stories, really abruptly, Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, which is so far the most beautiful looking Lego game with some of the greatest lighting ever.
That poster is great.
Yeah. And you even get some of Finn's nervousness from the lightsaber battle, is going to be released June 28th on any console you could possibly think of. Now, Lego being
Super Nintendo.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. The Super Star Wars games were huge, so I wouldn't put it past them. But knowing how it's a family-friendly brand, there's a lot of darkness in the Lego franchise to a point where even Disney's own games left it out.
Yeah.
How do you think Lego is going to translate the darker parts for a wide audience?
Now, if I remember correctly, in some of the earlier Star Wars games, when Lego Star Wars games, when characters died, their Legos would just fall apart, and it would be this sort of winking, like, yeah, a really horrible thing happened, but actually they just fell apart. So I don't know if they'll do that, or if they'll just omit things entirely, or maybe Han will just fall and he won't actually.
Or like trip on soap or something, and whoops, it'll become really slapstick.
Yeah.
No, one of my favorite.
I like the idea that there would just be soap on that walkway.
Lego
for no
finds
reason.
a way.
Yeah,
they
really do.
One of my favorite bits from the original trilogy Lego Star Wars is at the end of the Empire section, before the Legos could talk, or before they had voice acting in the Lego games. The big reveal to Luke was Vader holding up a picture of Padme and Anakin.
Oh.
And like Padme had a thing, and he was just like, but that they get creative with how they have to say certain things.
Yeah.
I don't. The one thing that I will be interested in seeing is the Han bit.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it'll be
about
done tastefully with humor for sure.
Probably, because even in the trailer with the little bit with Kylo and the crossguard saber is actually really funny. So I can't imagine them
hilarious.
all of a sudden, going really dark and serious. They'll find a way to like you said.
Yeah, even the Harry Potter ones, they found a way to do Voldemort killing the parents and Snape dying was all, excuse me, sorry.
You should know by now.
You should know by now. Movies and books, no excuse. Was all really kind of silly and like, oh, that was kind of sad, but appropriate. Either way, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I am thrilled just by the post double. Mm-hmm. The post double is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
so pronounced and powerful.
Yeah, I like when Rey jumps on her little in the trailer when she jumps on her little speeder. Her eyebrows her face is even like so intense. Of course, they're not gonna. Yeah.
But I love the bumper sticker BB on board.
BB on board.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's
great.
Lego. Love it. Excited.
Nice.
Pre-order
Nice
at your
work.
local retailer now. And our final story, which is kind of gonna intro us to our main topic. John Boyega might be training for some more sword combat. Mm-hmm. He posted an Instagram with his mom, which is just absolutely adorable.
No, it's his sister.
Sister?
It's a big hashtag big sis.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misread it. That's my apologies. I still don't know how to speak. But the gloves that he's wearing are very common in. I've been watching a lot of like Bushido movies over the weekend, and it's kendo. Excuse me.
Kendo,
So kendo training, two-handed sword training, or something else. He's doing training for hand-to-hand combat. I say hand-to-hand combat for weapons combat. I don't know where my head is today.
You're playing the Lego game in your mind, aren't you?
And I'm trying to rework everything.
It's okay.
Do you think that there's going to be more lightsaber combat in Finn's future, or a different type of light weapon, or expanded universe Legends sort of a weapon in Finn's future?
Audrey, go ahead.
I don't know. That's such a good question, because we already know Rey has the Force. We already know that she's most likely going to be trained to be a Jedi. Is that too much to have Finn learning how to use or having to use a lightsaber? I don't know.
Yeah.
I've loved seeing all kinds of creative weapons. I think that's always super, super fun. Like in the movie, what was it? The riot gear. That thing.
The whoppity stick, I believe, is what the internet referred to it as.
The whoppity stick. I love that. I love seeing all kinds of stuff like that. But I don't know.
Yeah,
how I feel.
Think I'm excited about any possibility. I see three possibilities.
Okay.
I see just the straight up. It was a sort of double psych out from the storytellers that he does have some level of Force capability, and maybe he will be trained as well. And there's no reason not to have that happen. Or it could just be he's like, hey, I handled that lightsaber and it was fun. Do you have to be a Jedi to have a lightsaber?
Yeah.
That's
And
what
he's
I
like,
was
no,
thinking,
I'm going to
yeah.
get a lightsaber. Or the third option, that he's just like, I am going to train myself in every possible kind of stick with which I can hit Kylo Ren. Because that is just never going to happen to me again. I just think it's cool that Force Awakens sort of did break out that idea of who can use a weapon like that or who should use a weapon like that, at least in the film world. Obviously, in the expanded universe, we've seen all sorts of variations of that, and even in Revenge of the Sith, the Magna Guards with their electro staff. But I like how much it is like, well, yeah, if people are going to be coming at us with lightsabers, we are going to be trained to the best of our ability, which is a kind of a really different shift to being an older fan and like, Luke uses a lightsaber. Han would never touch a lightsaber except for to cut open a tauntaun, but he wouldn't use it to fight. There's lightsabers for Jedi, blasters for everybody else.
Right.
And now we're in this brave new world where anyone can hit anyone with some sort of electrified stick.
Exactly. And plus, a lot of that history has been like so far away that even like, oh, you mean Han Solo exists? You mean it's really the Millennium Falcon? So maybe these new kids, these new upstarts are just like, why can't I use a lightsaber? I like your idea number 2. I can kind of see that, but then he'd have to go get a lightsaber, right?
Yeah, and we kind of do. That's fascinating stuff too, because we don't know how rare they are, or what's going on really with the lightsabers in the galaxy.
What if, as a way to truly disconnect himself from the world, Luke left his green lightsaber, so that he wouldn't be tempted by that to use it for any ill will?
I would be thrilled if all of Episode 8 was basically like an episode of Antiques Roadshow. Just people finding old Jedi and Sith artifacts. Like, is this worthwhile?
That's another idea for the Maz Kanata series, where it's literally Antiques Roadshow. No, it's like
absolutely.
Like Property Wars or whatever, where they find everything in her bunker and they try to sell it.
Or even just hoarders.
Or she didn't pay her bill, and so now they're doing an auction of all her stuff. She didn't pay her rent.
I like all of those options. Either way, we're going to see some more fun with John Boyega and with Finn.
Yeah, this is a great fan tease, I think, because it lets you wonder so many different possibilities.
And I'm sure him as a fan himself is like, okay, first movie's out. I kept quiet for as long as you wanted me to, but now I want to be able to tease stuff, and you got to let me do that.
Do you think? And this was I thought this was really interesting when I saw that this question was going to be on the show today. Do you think that he has to get all his pictures approved that might have a little clue in there, or is it like post now, take it down later?
I would think that they check with big things. Because we have had a couple of Instagram pull downs with like the helmets that were revealed from Rogue One that got pulled down. You know, it is so obviously there wasn't some checking ahead of time there. But I feel like, I don't know, I don't have any good perspective
I can't imagine
anymore.
what the contracts are like that they have to sign. So I know that they have to be really careful.
I'm sure there's huge amount of controls, but then also just being a big Star Wars fan and getting to talk about it week after week, my perception of what is a huge reveal. Like to me, this is like huge reveal, and then like just to the millions of people who went to The Force Awakens, just like good Star Wars movie. They're not like, what does his hat say? Samurai? He must be a what? Like,
but at the same time,
different levels of perspective.
What if all of the training on the film gave him a new hobby? And all of his conjecture is just nothing.
Is that he just really likes kendo?
Yeah, he just became a big fan and was like, you know what, I'm gonna continue this. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I need a hobby.
I brought my sister.
I like sparring.
I brought my sister here today and thought she'd like it too. And it's just a picture of family.
Just building up my pecs. That's all, guys. It's not a Star Wars thing. Just my pecs. But in case that he is being trained as a Jedi, we decided that we would make that the main focus of our show today. Our main topic is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a little while, which is how one goes about training a Jedi. What is the best way to train a Jedi? It's something that I'm interested in because it's been such a big part of both the prequel trilogy, the classic trilogy, and now such a big question mark of the sequel trilogy of, is Luke going to train Rey? We're all sort of assuming that, well, of course he is, because that's the way to have the story move forward.
Yeah.
Because it just looks like, nah, I'm happy at my temple. Bye. Obviously, she can train herself in some way, but it still becomes all about training. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to train your Jedi. Even maybe that's Finn, maybe it's Rey. Who knows how many Jedi will be trained in Episode 8.
By the way, that picture is just really sad because all I can think of is all those younglings are about to be murdered.
Well, they got a couple of years in this photo.
Yeah, this was 2.
I know, but I can't help but think it's going to end. It's going to end.
I know,
it's going to end horribly, and they're going to be scared.
It's true.
When it ends.
It's true. When you see younglings, you just think about the horrible death of the younglings.
I just think about, because someone erased it from the archive memory. That's all I can think when I see it. Is that wonderful read from that child.
Yes, in Attack of the Clones, yes. So I want to talk a little bit about just doing some speculation and some guesswork to sort of lay the groundwork of our conversation. How do you guys, in your opinion, how do you think Luke did go about teaching his students before Kylo/Ben went and ruined everything?
I think, in Jedi, in Return of the Jedi, in the beginning of that, Luke is so serious. He's got, a lot of concentration and seems like he meditates a lot. And I think he would have taken that approach. I think he would have taken a strict approach of being a Jedi. That's what I think. And he would have used a lot of Yoda quotes.
Yeah.
That wouldn't sound right coming out of his mouth, but he'd say them anyway, and they'd look at them like, what? Maybe that's what drove Ben crazy.
Are you talking so weird? That's so strange.
That's so strange.
I figure it would be a lot of heavy Force understanding and meditation.
Yeah.
Nothing too physical until they're ready.
Yeah.
The only thing that could change that in my mind is if he found if he was looking for Jedi temples before he started training kids, and saw like, well, this is how the ancients do it. We're going back to our roots, but we don't. I figure it's all more philosophical than physical.
Yeah, I feel like he definitely made that transition from Empire to Jedi, where he fully understood what Yoda and Obi-Wan had been trying to tell him of, like, a Jedi has the most serious mind, and he had become much more serious. But then also there's so much in Return of the Jedi specifically, where kind of the attachment argument, where Yoda and Obi-Wan are just saying, like, well, no, Vader and the Emperor are both evil, and you need to kill them, and what ends up saving Luke is his willingness to not kill his father, and also his attachment to his friends, his trusting of his friends, which he's also not supposed to do. So Luke wins because he doesn't take some of the advice. So there's a part of me that thinks that Luke would kind of try to be the cool teacher.
Yeah.
Where he says, like, look, you have to have the most serious mind, but I get it. It's difficult. I've been where you are.
Yeah.
Because he had such weird and difficult training himself.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. So
I can see that. And most of his skills, as far as fighting with a lightsaber and such, were so instinctual. He didn't have years and years of training like a younglings did. So he doesn't even know really how to begin to teach that. So I think it'd be very improvisational, making it up as he go. But I agree with you that I think it'd be a very philosophical approach. A lot of the stuff that Yoda taught him, let's hang upside down for a while.
Sure.
And think.
Yeah, I mean, that's most of what the most Jedi training that we have seen on screen is usually being lectured while lifting things with your mind. That's usually the Jedi training we see on screen. So it'd be interesting to see if he switched that up a little bit. And
right.
separated the lecture from the actual levitating of things. I also think that Episode 8 might want to change things up in the same way that Episode 7 did, where it gave us a lot of traditional Star Wars things, but then kind of put a nice, surprising spin on it. So if Episode 8 is a very Empire Strikes Back-like story, where half of the story is Luke and Rey, and maybe Finn, training, how do you think that Luke is going to go about training Rey moving forward?
I think he's going to be really apprehensive. I mean, what happened with Ben Kylo, it's totally wrecked him, obviously, because he went and sought refuge and has been alone for so long. I think this would be an interesting part of the story, that if he chooses to train and when he chooses to train, that he may be holding back certain things that can help them, but may have been a trigger for Ben, so he won't teach Rey, and so Rey's not going to know that, and then it's going to end up biting her in the ass because she didn't know it, and then Luke was going to think, oh my gosh, I should have taught them that in the first place. So that's what I think.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be in a similar sense, the opposite of what he did with Ben, where he might have been more philosophical. Maybe he decides, you know what, that didn't work. This is war. I'm gonna teach you combat. I'm gonna teach you straight up how to attack and how to defend. These are the lightsaber forms. You need to know how to use all of them. If you want to fight this guy. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I think maybe the difference for him this time around would be one at a time. Because if he did start a school of many people, we don't know their ages because we don't know the timeline yet.
Right.
Maybe he'd be like, okay, I'll train one Jedi at a time. And it should be a little bit more like truly the chosen one, of just like, no, one at a time. Because if you get a bunch of them together, one of them's always going to go bad.
Go from public school to homeschooling.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's been a bubbling conversation about what's going on with Luke, too. I feel like a lot of people who have been saying, oh, The Force Awakens is a bit of a bummer because it takes away our hero's victories. Luke was the great champion of the galaxy and then just went away and hid. I think there are plenty of interpretations where he actually does need something at that first Jedi temple, and he's kind of hiding, but maybe he's working on his syllabus.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
maybe-
working on his big comeback.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something there that will help him keep Jedi on the true righteous path of goodness and light. Did you guys think, just sort of watching, how did you feel about the rigid way of training in the prequels? Did you think that's a good idea? To be really controlling of your Jedi?
I think it would have been easier if, as you just mentioned with Luke, if there were less. They seem just to be bolstering their numbers instead of really trying to spread the Jedi way. If you have fewer students, that means you get more of a chance to impart a lesson upon them in a stronger way, as opposed to, all right, everybody, open up your books, turn to page 30. James, we need you to read. Like, no, if you remove that element of it, and instead of the picture that we saw earlier of the 12 kids, however many 20 kids were in that room, and Yoda had maybe 5, then you might get a better lesson, and also less children murdered.
Yeah, that's
So there
true.
is
Which
that.
is really the most, save the children.
Yes.
Save the children.
Yeah, fewer children deaths.
Hindsight
Great.
is 20/20.
I think that's a tough question because, those Jedis were amazing to watch in the prequel trilogy, and what they could do was nothing short of brilliant. And I myself, in my own life, I really enjoy rules and discipline,
Right.
which is just me. But at the same time, when I get too caught up in my rules and my discipline that I set for myself, bad things happen. Things happen that I don't know are happening because it's like a tunnel vision. And I think everything's a cycle. Like what you said, it got too big. I think it probably started out small. Everything's cycles. Civilizations rise and fall. And I think that's what happened to the Jedi. They got too big, and then they fell, and now they're starting small again. So, and it's also about balance. How can you instill those rules and discipline that are so important, but still be able to allow people to trust their instinct, trust their gut.
Yeah. So if
know?
you're going to have fewer Jedi, would you still collect all of the babies who are Force sensitive and then flunk Jedi out?
That's the thing. What do you do with all the people that are Force sensitive if you have a really hard screening process? They're going to go join the dark side.
Right.
Right?
No, we don't know that. We don't. How many Force-sensitive children have we seen just around?
Just around here?
No,
in
I don't
North
mean
Hollywood?
Yeah. No, but I mean in comic books, in any of the old video games, how many Force-sensitive children aren't sensed?
I feel like there have been a lot of characters
Yeah.
in the expanded universe who are if you had been in the Republic, you'd be trained, or even before the prequels kind of introduced that idea of the Jedi taking kids at youth. There's a lot of people it's kind of Force sensitive but never trained. I think it's a sort of fun and natural thing to explore. I don't think there's any reason why the Jedi wouldn't want to just have some Force sensitive people sitting around in the galaxy. That's fine.
Because due to different varying amounts of Force sensitivity, why do they all have to be Jedi? You know, if you train them, if you expand the curriculum.
Well, I think that gets to their doctrine was too harsh because
they
this was specifically
they needed a Congress to reevaluate and create a new lesson plan.
Yeah, but I guess one of my big questions about the prequels era in a story I would love to hear is we hear about the Jedi who are very special, who have mastered a specific lightsaber form, or all of our various chosen ones who are unbelievably powerful. I wonder if it's just everybody beneath those guys is just, you're a Jedi and that's fine, or if Yoda and Mace are that one Jedi is just not very good. You can only lift the small rocks at best. Just not the best Jedi.
He can still have a job here at the academy. He can do maintenance. He can, be a gardener. Just don't send him out, because when you're a teenager and you get rejected, you're just oh man.
I think what I'm getting,
and that can turn them to the dark side.
Exactly.
Yeah. What I'm learning in our discussion about how to train Jedi is we don't have any better ideas about how not to have a cruel, dysfunctional system, at least in the prequel era.
I mean, but that shows that brings to light what the system was, just flawed.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about the prequels, because it is this really interesting idea of how do you assert control when you're trying to teach somebody to just be in harmony. And you're be in harmony. be in harmony the right way.
Be in
kid.
harmony harder.
Yeah, be in harmony harder.
Their rules became too grand and unbendable.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like even when when Qui-Gon was trying to bring Anakin to the academy, they're like, no, his age, this, and this. It's just like, they were unable to look beyond the rules that they had set, to improvise. And I think that's bad.
Absolutely. And there's some great stuff of Yoda reflecting on that in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, which I haven't yet read in years, which I'd love to get back to. But, excellent segue, would Qui-Gon have been a better teacher to Anakin than Obi-Wan?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. 100%.
Totally.
Because Qui-Gon could have filled the shoes of a father figure for Anakin that Obi-Wan could not. I think Obi-Wan was too close in age.
Right.
And so, when Anakin got older, they, were more... It was a more friendship type of partnership and everything, where I think Qui-Gon could have been that father figure that he so desperately needed, and instead there was that vacancy that Palpatine came in and just took to his advantage.
Right.
And also, just as a Force user, we talked at length about how malleable Qui-Gon is.
Right.
So for the rare case that we had with Anakin as a Padawan, I don't see a more perfect teacher for somebody to take on a student who's so much older and already knows what the world is. Let's give him Qui-Gon. That seems like the best idea.
Yeah, he would have been much more understanding of Anakin's actual needs instead of the
feelings.
Jedi trying to force him into. Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I like Qui-Gon, because he'd be attentive to my needs. He'd be malleable and take care of me. I love him so much.
Oh, that's delightful. Just delightful.
I'm here for delight.
You are providing me a brilliant segue to every one of my questions. In the big picture, do you think Jedi should have attachments? I think that's one of the most interesting philosophical questions sort of raised by the prequels. Should they have attachments?
I think there's advantages and disadvantages to going both ways. I mean, I see the discipline in not having the monk-like life and not having attachments and everything, because also it's harder for the enemy to come in and take advantage of you too. When you have someone you love, when you have children, when you have family, you can be coerced into doing things that you normally wouldn't do.
Superhero trope.
Exactly.
Aunt May syndrome.
But at the same time, I think it was you, Joseph, that brought up earlier. Because of the way Luke was raised, he did have a little more emotional quality to him that led him not to kill his father, and that led him to actually make some good choices. So it's a really, really tough.
It gives you something
What's
to fight
the
for.
line?
It gives you something to fight for ultimately.
Yeah, there you go.
And if you do have, if your family or relatives or any sort of person that you care about is put into jeopardy, you fight extra harder to free them from that, and to sort of establish that you're not one to be messed with and your family is not to be messed with. So I think it would benefit having some attachments, as mentioned before with Luke.
Yeah,
it's what.
Wouldn't you get more Jedis like through procreation that way?
Yeah, certainly.
I'm just if you're talking about those attachments,
gotta,
I'm not sure if you're talking about those
just
attachments, but
help
in case
the Force along a little bit.
Yes,
Help the Force along a little
Force
bit.
push right and left on the old Jedi Tinder, and you're all good to go. How about this? How about if Jedi were encouraged to have casual friends, but not real close? So you get a little bit more socialization of just hanging out.
Yeah.
But you're not. But if we drift apart, that's fine too.
Right.
So like a Jedi Academy dance.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know, man.
Yeah, like just a buddy.
Socialize them.
Hang out with a little bit, but whatever. If you drift apart, that's fine.
Yeah. No attachments. Well, then should they be other Jedis that you have? Like if you're talking about those kind of emotional attachments or sexual attachments, should it be with other Jedis or not?
Yeah, I mean, they do have those relationships with other Jedi, and it seems like that gets talked about a decent amount in the Clone Wars. Of like, well, you should of course have an attachment to your master and your Padawan, but then you should just let it go and let them go into the Force, and that's fine, and not go crazy and go off rescuing them. Mm-hmm. I bring it up partially because I feel like Obi-Wan is supposed to be our representation of a Jedi who walked the correct path.
Yes.
And like in Attack of the Clones, the way he just seems to really love Dexter in the diner, of just like, you're my buddy and we hug, but that's not a bad attachment. He's just a guy I really like, and I go to his diner every once in a while. Mm-hmm. But if he died, I wouldn't flip out and kill everybody.
Right. It's like, what do you think these guys do at night when they're done being a Jedi? Do they just go home and go to sleep, or do they go grab a drink? You know, they probably want to go grab a drink.
Yeah, but I don't think they did back in the day. I think they sat in their little cubes and meditated. Yeah. And I think my bias, but I think they should have a drink. So if you started a Jedi Academy, guys, how young do you think they should start? Because that's been another huge question, which may or may not come up in Episode 8, to the question of, is Rey too old? Luke would be a big hypocrite to bring that up.
Definitely not as old. Definitely not as young as we see in the prequels, because there's no world there that you can't. You're imposing your worldview onto children that don't have one, and it can create a skewed opinion, skewed values, all sorts of stuff. I would say Anakin's age might have been the right choice, because then you can. Here are children who have lived.
Yeah.
As opposed to the ones at the Jedi Temple. I'll keep bringing it up as often as I need to.
I did not expect this episode to be such a
keep
bummer.
Going there,
We're
man.
going to have a moment of silence at the end for all the younglings.
Don't worry, the actors are all still fine. But I wouldn't want them too young, because I would want to know what I was working with instead of just a blank slate. Like, blank slates can only take you so far.
Well, I think this is very interesting. Actually, the questions you're posing today, Joseph, are really complex.
Yeah, I know.
They're really tough, because I totally agree with everything Mark is saying, but at the same time, you know...
What do you think of General Meeting's haircut, though?
Oh, my goodness.
I can bring it back to simpler.
What color lightsaber do you want him to use?
You know, anybody's formative years. I mean, that makes you who you are. It's made us who we are, what we, you know, the experiences we had in our formative years. And so that's an argument for taking them when they're young, because then you can instill the discipline and how to meditate and, you know, good versus evil. But at the same time, I don't like the thought of being taken away from your family and losing that emotional kind of connection. But if you wait, I mean, how old do you want to wait? You know, if you wait till their hormones are raging when they're tweens and teens, that could be a harder hill to climb, because they're going to be fighting back more, you know, which may be a good thing that they're fighting back more, because they're building like a bigger sense of what being a Jedi is. So it's like every single thing leads to another question.
Yeah.
So
to me, it's
tough.
fascinating, because I think it is cultural, and it's really cool to see this space movie with laser swords and spaceships that we like so much. It does reflect these sort of deep ideas of actual like human development, of like when is the appropriate time to sort of learn your place in the galaxy and to take on responsibility. And when you think like, oh, they're giving these Jedi lightsabers much younger than we give kids driver's licenses.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It makes you think. So what did you decide? Around puberty then, do you think? Is the only actual parent on this panel?
I would say around puberty, maybe right before, you know, somewhere at the end of the tween years.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I was thinking around tween years, and I'm so fascinated to see when and how they actually tell the Kylo Ren story, but I think it'll be interesting to see if he started out young as a younger kid, really liking Uncle Luke, and then he got into his bitter teenage years, and Snoke was like, this is going to be easy.
Yeah.
Not easy.
It's probable.
And that goes back to your first question. That's certainly a story I'd love to see is, you know, when Ben was born, and what were the first years like? Was there family bliss? When did it go wrong?
Yeah, Luke is just hovering, going, can I take him now?
Can I take him out? And Han's just like, I want to go.
You know, the holocron said that I should take them like right after birth.
The holocron says a lot of things.
So we'll get one Life Day photo with Space Seers, and then we're on our way.
So you guys already brought this one up. What would be your curriculum balance on negotiating versus lightsaber training?
Well, I once again, I think there needs to be balance in that as well. But I will bring up not kendo, but a type of martial arts called kenpo, which a lot of my friends do kenpo, and it's, I mean, it's a lot of defensive moves from what I understand, and there's quite a few offensive ones, and it's you practice it to take someone down.
Okay.
I mean, you can totally incapacitate somebody, but part of the lesson of kenpo is negotiating first, is always trying to diffuse the situation in a peaceful manner, and if that doesn't work, okay, I'm going to you're destroyed.
Gonna have to go a little bit more intense.
You know, so I'm all about balance on that.
Cool. Yeah. What do you think, Mark?
I would. it's hard because you either go Jedi business, go about your go about your night, or go back to your drinks, or Obi-Wan delaying the invasion in Clone Wars. I think one leads to another. They're very fluid, but I would have to go negotiation. Peace first, and lightsabers as a even something in between where it's hand to hand, and lightsabers are a last resort. Absolute last resort.
I think it's a great new fresh story in the sequel trilogy that we know that Kylo Ren is out there, we know that Snoke is out there, our heroes know that, and we know that the First Order is coming. So it's kind of like, how much time do we have for levitating rocks versus we'll get you trained up with lightsabers real good, whoever wants. If you guys could train as Jedi by levitating anything, what would you want to levitate? How's that for a serious, deep question?
Wait, things have taken a turn in this show.
I want to levitate me.
That's my answer, actually. My answer is like, I like to float.
Oh, that's good.
And it would be really cool to float in air.
And especially to practice, like, in the middle of the night, like, wake up in the middle of the night and just, like, start to see if your significant other notices and be like, oh, my God! Oh, you stop it! Just stop it!
I just needed to pee, and I'm going to float to the bathroom.
No. But that was my first thing that came to my head was, I think I'd like to levitate myself.
That's great. See, I think my answer ended up being kind of your answer, but I was thinking about it from the perspective of it has to be something that is valuable. So it means something, so you don't want to drop it. But then also, if you're always levitating things, it means something to you, and you're constantly dropping them. So I decided that I would want to levitate people in padded suits. So I care about the person. I'm going to hurt them when I drop them inevitably, but a little bit.
In those big plastic balls, so they can just, just bounce.
I just also like that. I like meditating, thinking very serious, and levitating my friends in balls. That
but then,
seems like fun.
Then you can juggle them. Like, then it can become really entertaining.
For you, not for them.
That's true. They're all barfing inside their balls.
They were not clear for very longer.
Cool. We got 2 questions left. A lot of Jedi training is about patience and control. What's the closest you've been to Jedi training in real life where you have just had to master patience and control while still actively doing something?
You know, I'll say this. I've always tried to be in shape and exercise and everything, but that mostly is walking. You know, I like to walk. So it's not like I'm like super, duper strong or anything like that. And I moved into this place a few years ago, and 1 block away was this place that said Sweat Pilates. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to go in Pilates studio.
Sweat Pilates?
Sweat Pilates.
Right.
I'm just too tall and bony. I can't touch my toes. I'm going to be embarrassed. This is LA. Everyone looks so good in Pilates studios. I'm not going to do it. And I walked by it one day on my walk, and it was a bunch of people that just looked normal. And I was like, all right. So I went to a class, and it isn't, I don't know why they call it Sweat Pilates. It's a kind of machine, like a Pilates machine, but it's a 45-minute class where you do a series of exercises on these rollers and everything, where you work every single muscle group in your body to fatigue without stopping.
That sounds like fun.
The 45 minutes, and it broke me on the first time. And I was like, no, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back. It's a block away. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. And I went for like 8 or 9 months, and I've, I don't know if it's endorphins or whatever, but I had never been so clear-headed.
Oh, wow.
In my life. I'd never been in that kind of shape. My core was strong, everything. And then we moved, and it's like, well, it's not a block away.
It's a long walk.
And my discipline went away. But for that short period of time, it's amazing how that helped me with my mental focus and my confidence and my strength. It's not that I looked good. It's just I felt good.
You felt strength.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Mark?
Cannot beat that in any sort of
I'm going to start
respect.
vetoing that responses. I ask these questions because I want to learn about you, Mark.
Yeah. I'm going to say theater.
Okay.
I've been doing
That's a good
theater
answer.
for quite some time.
That's a very good answer.
You really do have to. The only thing that you keep about yourself is how you would react, but the real thing is finding out about the person you're playing, whether they're real or not, figuring them out, and then giving your control up and letting that person take over.
Right.
So being able to turn that on and off, being able to go into that character and not let it affect you.
Yeah.
Like I had a buddy who was Iago, and it stuck with him for a little while, but I played a cockroach high priest once.
Nice.
So to be able to turn that off was really hard. No, but being able to go there is something that you need a little bit of patience with.
Right, so it is a lot of emotional control because
Yeah.
you are letting all of these various emotions that are
Right.
technically not real, but
Yeah.
are kind of real, flow through you, and then you still want to control them.
Theater,
Yeah.
you're right. Theater is so much about that. Depending on how you approach a character, because everyone has their own method or their own process. Like when I'm on stage, I always have at least like my pinky toe in reality. That's the way I am. But I'm also giving myself to the part, but it's a process that you had to learn, and you had to learn which one was right for you.
Yeah.
And it's not easy getting up and doing a show. It may look easy. I want to do that. No, it takes training.
Very unlike the Jedi Order
Yeah.
where you have options. It's
Yeah.
just the one way that you have to do it.
You played
Yeah.
a cockroach. I once played an Asian manservant in a Sam Shepard play. So
Awesome.
there you go.
There you go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Alright.
Having done theater, I think theater and lots of acting makes sense because you get that dual brain where you can be saying your lines, being in the moment, but then you're still analyzing how things are going, which
Right.
I think relates to like the way I think Jedi are working. When
Yes.
like their lightsabers are spinning, they're giving their body over to the Force,
But
and they
they're
know,
still,
but they're still analyzing
Yeah.
the situation
Yeah.
while they're going through those motions. I partially asked this question because it was at a relatively young age the first time that sort of the depth of Star Wars affected me is I was in a dumb rock and roll band in high school, and the first time that I played drums like in front of everybody was in front of the whole school, and that needing to be at peace in order to like drum quickly, do this sort of violent aggressive thing of literally hitting something, but in order to do it with precision, I could do it better if I was calm about the way I was
Interesting.
striking things. And I didn't think about it, and it just popped in my head. Like, oh, like the Force and Luke and all those things that Yoda said. Duh.
That's fantastic.
If I just thought of that earlier, it'd be fine.
Fantastic.
Duh. So always think about what Yoda would say, I guess, is the final question.
I have a Yoda shirt on.
do it
Try
or
not,
Do or do not.
Oh,
there is no
nice.
try. And it's got a Yoda thing on the back, which I'm not going to show you. So go buy your own.
Fair enough.
But for people who are listening on iTunes, she totally showed it on YouTube. So go to the YouTube page and watch it so that you can see it.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so final question before we start to wrap up so I can look at the Yoda on your shirt. What would your Jedi trials be? What would you guys have to face about yourself in order to pass your Jedi trial? Another easy question from Joseph Scrimshaw.
Essentially, like my regrets, my decisions that I made that caused me to act differently to this day because you did. Why did you do that? You're such a dumb. And whether that's to acknowledge them and go, that wasn't a big deal, and if I never made that, I wouldn't have made this decision. Very vague. But I would have to say my past regrets and decisions just to be at peace so that I can be clear-headed.
Cool. So you
forward.
would go into the cave on Dagobah, and other Mark B. Donicas would be
Oh,
complaining.
dude, and they would look so lame. Yeah, it'd be pretty great.
I think that's probably a common one.
It's a little dark, but mine's a little dark as well. I guess that they'd all be a little dark. What you have to face
Yeah,
yourself.
they should be.
Earlier I said, I always have all the rules and discipline. That's just the way I go through life, and it's not a good way to go through life. I don't suggest it. It's just the way my brain is wired, and so because of that, fear plays a big part of my daily life.
Yeah.
Every day I have fear when I wake up, during the day, right now, when I go to bed, and because of that, it causes a lot of hesitation and confusion. So I think facing a stronger self, myself who relies on instinct and preys on fear, I think that would be a huge challenge. I think I'd fail my trial. I'm pretty sure because my fear is pretty. It's a monolith and everything. But facing a me that trusts her instincts,
Interesting.
and can prey on my weakness would be very very tough.
Yeah. I was trying to think about this question, and there's a cartoon that goes around the internet a lot lately of, I think it's like a dog, everything's on fire, and he's saying,
This is fine.
This is fine.
This is fine.
And I feel like the darker version of myself does that sometimes, of just being a little bit too optimistic of like, everything's burning now, but it'll be fine. So I feel like if I confronted the better version of myself, it would be somebody coming in and saying, everything's burning. It's great that you're optimistic, but Maybe get out now.
Slowly melting. Everything's fine.
Maybe get out now.
You're about to
So those are some thoughts on Jedi training. I'm super excited to see, with all of the history that the films have with it, how they're going to tackle these ideas. We've got a super interesting kind of positive character in both Rey and Finn, how if they are both trained, how they're going to face their dark sides the way that we've seen other Jedi trials do. I think it'll be a lot of interesting Jedi training coming up. That's it for this topic. Back to you, Mark.
So we're going to go into our new favorite segment here at Jedi Alliance, which is Mind Probe. That's where our fans go to our Facebook page. That is Jedi Alliance. Make sure to give us a thumbs up and a like so that you can see our updates on when we ask these questions. And this is where you provide us with questions to answer here on the show. So thank you to everybody who has liked us so far. Please make sure to go like us and add your own questions to this list. So let's get started with Mr. Scott Shigemi. Is there a terrain type that we need to see that we haven't yet? Offhand, I recall desert, jungle, water, city, snow, more desert, more jungle, temperate, underwater, forest, more jungle, even more desert, and more snow.
Yeah, this is a great question. This is one of those ones I used to run through my mind as a kid because the original trilogy was so clearly like, here are the various main types of terrain on actual planet Earth. The only ones that I can think of is maybe a whole planet of quicksand. Impractical, but fun. Or living in Minnesota in the Midwest for a long time, we have never seen a super dirty snow planet. We have only ever seen like pretty fresh fallen snow.
Yeah.
And even in The Force Awakens, it is that sort of like kind of old woods patches of snow here and there, still a little bit pretty. Mm-hmm. But, you know, if you've ever lived in a place that snows a lot, everybody drives through it and just gets disgusting and slushy. So I would love to see just disgusting, gross, slushy Hoth.
Slushy Hoth.
or an idyllic English countryside, like in Downton Abbey. Countryside with stormtroopers going through.
But I figure like an old world big city.
Oh, that's what I have written down. That's I thought the same thing. Were you thinking like a functioning city or a husk of a city?
Well, I would say something like Naboo looked a little bit too clean.
It was too clean. It was way too clean. So you didn't really see anybody. When you saw the streets of, they weren't really dying and blood was everywhere.
But just in general, but even speaking to the first half of your comment, you could have even stopped at, you didn't really see anybody.
Yeah.
It didn't, as new as it was, it didn't feel lived in.
Right.
So maybe a ruinous, maybe like a Rome sort of a city where there's all this history around, but everybody still lives there like, yeah, that's where my dad lived, so I live there now too.
Yeah.
I would say something like that.
Cool. So
I would think that like in a good with a big city, whether it's like an ancient city like you're saying, or a city with skyscrapers, I think it'd be really interesting, like building to building combat or building to building trying to solve whatever the problem of the movie is or story is, and even flying in between skyscrapers and beautiful buildings.
Yeah,
and
we've
stuff
seen
like that.
stuff like that on Clone Wars and that, so it'd be cool to see it on the big screen.
On the big screen, yeah.
Or a living planet.
Oh, yeah.
Like straight up alive, like the planet is a being.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Would you want to face on it?
Being. No.
Too far.
A little bit too far. Maybe some tendrils, but who knows? But yeah, I think that would be fun. Moving on, Miss Jessica Beardsley asks us, Anakin made C-3PO, and he made Luke. Does that make them brothers?
I've never heard this question before.
Yeah, I'm going to go half-brothers because Padme was involved in making one of them, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go, if Anakin had a normal life, C-3PO would have been his brother, so I think he would have been more like an annoying uncle to Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also seems in The Phantom Menace like he's making C-3PO for his mom, so it's not even like really his droid. And then he seems kind of dismissive, and he's like, yeah, bye. Does, he's not shaken up to leave C-3PO behind. So I think maybe if Anakin had stayed on Tatooine, he would have just junked 3PO at some point.
Probably. He would have been sold to the Jawas a lot sooner.
Yeah.
But he'd be that uncle that shows up on like Life Day.
Yeah.
It's like, why is he coming? Why'd you invite him?
This is a hilarious question, and I can definitely get down for half brother. I think
it seems like a brother from a first marriage that's the same age as like it's way too old. Like my fiance has has an uncle that's a year older than her, just because it was of a second marriage sort of a situation. So I imagine something similar to that, where it's an uncle, but it's a brother.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in Star Wars. This is a great certain point of view question.
Speaking of certain point of view,
Obi-Wan Kenobis for Jessica Beardsley.
Chris Marie asks, what's the worst costume to accidentally wear to a job interview?
I love that.
Yeah.
You forgot
It's like, I'm wearing my Padme robes today. Whoops.
Padme robes would be a pretty good one, I think, because overall, you at least look nice.
That's class.
Well, she did dress up for the interview, so she cares about her appearance. That's what that would.
She
would
put a
make you
lot of work into her outfit for sure.
Yeah. So in the universe, I'm assuming in the Star Wars universe, not just any kind
or
of
in
costume.
real life. Who knows? I think we're free to interpret.
I think this is
question.
what Star Wars costume
okay.
to a real world job interview.
Because I was thinking Sandworm from Dune, but then that would be really bad.
Right. Well, yeah. Like if you went to a convention and then you're like, oh wow, I forgot I have an interview on Monday and I can't actually make it home, so I just come home, go to this interview dressed as Han Solo.
Yeah. Well, Han Solo, I think you can get away with maybe depending on the job, and same even with Luke or a Jedi with just the robe, you know.
Yeah.
But I think showing up like with your helmet off as Boba Fett or a stormtrooper is going to kind of scream unbalanced, you know.
Yeah. I think the worst is Rancor Keeper. Because a casual Star Wars fan wouldn't know exactly what that was, and it would just look like you didn't bother to wear a lot of clothes
That's true,
to the
'cause
interview.
You could joke your way out of wearing the stormtrooper outfit.
Yeah, or you could even be like,
but not a
hey,
Rancor Keeper.
you know,
yeah.
I got some advice on interviews. I read some books, and they said that you should always make a statement so they remember
this is
you.
my statement.
But then walking out, if they tell you outright you don't get the job, you're perfectly dressed for the...
For the Rancor Keeper,
Yeah.
you're ready to cry if it doesn't go well.
But if you're a stormtrooper and you're really upset, you can turn around and say, "You will give me this job," and the guy's like pressing security. No, you will give me this job. Security.
The trapdoor button, yeah.
Beanbag shot. I say Watto.
Oh,
Because he doesn't really wear clothes.
he has a hat.
He
in
does.
Attack of the Clones.
That would probably be the worst costume to wear to a job interview.
So naked
just a hat.
with a hat that looks like a bowl on your head.
Sure. Yeah, I think that would be the absolute
I would love to
worst.
see that. You to walk in naked to an interview.
But then if you do the
hat on your head,
impression,
you go,
that gives
I'm
you...
Watto. Yeah.
Ugh. Nope, get out. Please get out. And our last question comes from Mr. Ryan Whittleson. Do we think Obi-Wan knew that Owen and Beru were killed before Luke left?
That's another great question.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so, because I think he knows it's possible, because he says, no, it's too dangerous when Luke takes off to go check on them. So I think he's already worked out, like, yeah, they're probably in trouble, but I don't know if he knew for sure that they were dead.
They were already skeletons?
Yeah, I don't know either. I thought that was tough as well. But if he did, I mean, it would make sense having Luke go back, and it's a horrible thing to make somebody discover that his family's dead, because that does serve as the catalyst to him making the choices that he does make. But that also makes Obi-Wan a cruel man.
Yeah. If he is fully aware that they're dead and it's best for Luke to go look at it, that's a bummer.
Yeah,
that's a bummer.
It is.
But that's the thing I thought about a lot in my youth, is I related to Luke and I wanted to go on this adventure, and every once in a while I would be reminded, like, if somebody burned my house down and murdered my parental figures, then I could have a fun adventure.
But if that's the only thing holding you back is that knowledge, you got to go check. And if not, I figure you would still make the same decision if they're like, oh, they're alive, great. Well, sorry about the house, but I'm going. I gotta go. Yeah. I think Obi-Wan definitely knew.
You think he knew?
Oh yeah. Just going off of what little about the relationship between Owen and Beru and Obi-Wan that we know about, he probably had Force tabs on him and could sense them.
Yeah. See, I don't think he could sense them. I think he could sense Luke, but I think you're right that he had at least a really good guess just based on, the stormtroopers are tracking the Jawas, so
Yeah, just a deep, cold realization.
Yeah.
So that was our Mind Probe segment. Make sure to go to Facebook and like our page. That is Jedi Alliance. Give us a like. We post every couple of weeks or so. Leave your questions, and we will read them and discuss them on the show. Thank you.
And thank you. And we'll move on to our final segment, Duel of the Fates. And we like to ask questions of you guys and see what our panelists think, see what you guys think on our Facebook page. Last week's question was a very sensitive question. Is BB-8 giving Finn the thumbs up or flipping him off? Now, many people pointed out in our Facebook discussion that this is not a canonical question, and it was not intended as a canonical question. I feel like the canonical question is clear, and Disney has made it clear, but I kept hearing more and more people, a surprising number, interpret it and say, you're nuts.
Really?
You're nuts.
Wow.
This is the true answer. So this was a question about feelings and about how you interpreted something, not about whether or not it was canon. Audrey, what was your reaction when you saw the film?
Oh,
It's thumbs up, right?
absolutely. Without a doubt.
Did you on future?
I squealed. I was like, yeah.
So it was a delightful thumbs
was
up.
delightful.
It was. I have seen the film 5 times. It is the most guaranteed and biggest laugh across
Yeah.
all audiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I forget, Mark. You always thought it was a thumbs up. when
Yeah,
you
it
saw
was a
right?
thumbs up. I would like to believe because he's too pure. He's too pure of a
Yeah.
character at this point to even know what that other one meant. So him just figuring out what a thumbs up was makes all the sense in the world. Now, I think that's something that he'll learn, and it might possibly change once he talks to Grandpa R2 a little bit more.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely a thumbs up.
Yeah, and in general, Mike Black had interpreted, our guest last week had interpreted it as a flip off. So people whose view I really respect do interpret it that way. So I thought it was a fascinating conversation. The answer on our Facebook page from our wonderful fans was that it was indeed a thumbs up, and yet there were a decent amount of people who still saw it as a flip off. Lawrence Morgan said, BB-8 is standing back with his chest raised, with his posture strong. He is flipping Finn off. It's a really good argument. A really good argument for that.
Nice, Lawrence.
Daniel Jose Molina said, if Chopper did it, then I'd believe he was flipping Finn off.
Yep.
But BB-8 seems like a nice droid.
Yeah, Chopper would so do that.
And a lot of
doubt.
people made your same point, Audrey, that's a part of his character development. He's a nice guy, and it's
Yeah.
the moment he decides to trust Finn for sure and be on his side.
Uh-huh.
And then finally, Marc-André Ducharme said, personally, I think that it is a horn hand sign because BB-8 seems metal to me.
He was rocking out to some Dio inside of his head. I'm lost in life.
He's just not even listening to Finn. I'm sorry. I was rocking out to my sweet jams inside my head. This week's question, which ties in well to the discussion of different terrains on other planets, would you rather be stranded on Jakku or Tatooine?
This was not hard for me. I
Really?
picked because I picked Tatooine all the way because I've seen some sense of family and community on Tatooine, where Jakku is just like a dog world. It's survival of the fittest.
Right.
Everything on Jakku reminds me of death, but you have the ship graveyards. You rely on portions to eat. If you don't bring the right piece of scrap metal
Right.
in, and people will steal from you and kill you to get your piece of scrap metal. I didn't see any sense of family at all
Right.
in what we saw in The Force Awakens on that small part of the planet. So I can be a moisture farmer on Tatooine.
Well, but speaking of that too, there's no community. Like it's literally just people fighting to stay alive. For some reason, they landed on that planet.
Yeah.
On the Star Tours, I did it. So adjust your spreadsheets. On the Star Tours, where you fly up to Jakku, the only thing that you can see on the planet's surface is the one outpost. Whereas from Tatooine, we know that there are multiple communities
Right.
throughout
Right.
the planet.
Right.
So I definitely Tatooine.
Yeah.
Tatooine seems like there's
Yeah.
something to do.
Yeah. So certainly Luke has pals and he
And
has
pod
community.
races.
And
Isn't that
Yeah.
The
Check out
pod
the Boon
races
to
are-
Eve Classic.
Yeah, and I would have said Tatooine, but I think this is a reflection that I'm just feeling a little bit overstressed in life. When I read Before the Awakening and we talked about it, there's that scene where, yes, it's supposed to be lonely that Rey has this lonely, friendless existence, but I was really affected by the part where she lives in an AT-AT and she's playing Star Wars video
I knew
games.
you were gonna say
and
that.
nobody bugs her. And
I
there's
knew
a
you
part
were
of
going
me
to say that. I knew it so hard.
I don't have any time
Yeah.
to play video games right now, so this is a bad choice, not an emotionally healthy choice.
It's not the correct choice,
By
but
any
dang it,
means.
it's the one that I need to make right
It's
now.
what-
But yeah,
Exactly.
there's a balance of like, oh, you're a little solitary and you have to prove yourself. You have to fight to exist. There's something about that that's a little interesting to me right now, of having to fight to exist rather than I farm water and I'm just
Yeah, but
kind of
see,
bummed out all the time.
That would have a lot of
Water.
rules, how to farm water, which would be good
yes,
for me.
yes.
Everyone
enough.
would break my rules on Jakku, and my head would explode.
There's a poppin' nightlife on Tatooine. They got pubs, they got cantinas. There's
have
stuff
a
to
drink.
do.
The
Yeah.
poppin' nightlife. That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I should be more social. I should strand
As
myself on
opposed to
Tatooine.
sandstorms,
Yeah. Well,
which could kill you.
there's sandstorms on Tatooine too.
Fair play.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Neither of them are great places to be.
Oh,
but
no.
those
No.
are your
No.
choices for this week.
Yeah.
I will post this on the Facebook tomorrow. This duel of the fates of which which horrible desert planet you would rather be stranded on, Tatooine or Jakku. Do you guys have any final thoughts about How to Train Jedi? Anything else you'd like to say about younglings dying?
No, I think we should have our moment of silence. Okay.
Younglings. I think it's very, very touching.
It's beautiful. Thank you. No, I mean, this got a lot deeper than I expected it to, but I gotta have a glass of tea and think about my life. But it'll be interesting to see what they do for Luke moving forward, and if we find any new information about the history of the Jedi through holocrons or flashbacks or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's be really interesting stuff. Anything else, Audrey?
No.
Okay, well then
I'm
go
good.
ahead and tell people where they can find you, and if there's anything coming up that you want to plug.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Audrey Kearns and on Instagram at Audrey Kearns _. I've got a new podcast for Kneel Before Odd coming out tomorrow, I believe, with screenwriter Bob DeRosa. And I'll have a new podcast for 5 Truths and a Lie, my storytelling show, coming out this month. And please check out GeekGirlAuthority.com and like us on Facebook. It would mean a lot to me. Do it!
A real forceful there
Yeah,
for a
that's
second,
awesome.
but you should do it. I totally. And you can find me on Twitter at Mark B. Donica. The B today stands for Bothan. It'll change. Tonight on Video Game Movie Anatomy, we're going to be covering Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li. If you've seen that movie, sorry. If you haven't, don't. But actually check it out. We're going to have a fun discussion tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Also, if you're a fan of anime and Rooster Teeth, we did a wonderful recap show last Thursday on our sister network, AfterBuzz TV, for Ruby. It was a great conversation. Join in. Have a good time. Joseph, where can people follow you having a good time?
You can find me in my at playing Star Wars video games all by myself because I have emotional problems. Similarly, you can find me on social media. Speaking of emotional problems, is at Joseph Scrimshaw. I've got a bunch of shows coming up. You can find out about all of them on my website at josephscrimshaw.com/live-shows. If you also like Doctor Who, I'm going to be a guest at the big Doctor Who convention this weekend in Los Angeles called Gallifrey 1. I'm going to be doing an hour of Doctor Who themed stand-up. If you want to check out my personal podcast, Obsessed, it's on the Feral Audio Network. In this next episode that's coming out this Thursday is our special episode about The Force Awakens, so I figure fans of Jedi Alliance might enjoy that. It's a lot of weird questions about people being obsessed with The Force Awakens. That's our show for today. Thank you for watching and or listening to Jedi Alliance. You can visit popcorntalknetwork.com to find a nice list of all the past episodes of Jedi Alliance and links to both YouTube and iTunes. Please also follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Jedi Alliance for all the us-related news. This has been Jedi Alliance on the Popcorn Talk Network. We talk movies. Thank you for listening, because many Bothans and younglings died to bring us this information.
Crap.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
Views expressed herein are those of the hosts only, not necessarily reflected